Big news. Do you guys ever think about how horrifying the world of One Piece is? I've been wanting to talk about the horrors of One Piece for a long time, and if you're anything like me, I love horror, I love Halloween, I love all that stuff. So let's think about One Piece and how it fits in with horror and like darker themes and genres. There's this funny thing that happens when you start watching One Piece because it's happy-go-lucky, adventure-y, fun. But before I watched One Piece, one of my reservations was how unserious and silly it was. But you really don't have to be watching or reading One Piece very long until you notice that there's some really dark undercurrents of this world. When we really think about the East Blue Saga, really early into it, we're introduced to there being literal sea monsters just off the coast of these tiny islands, maybe all of the islands. And I don't know about you, but one of my most primal fears is deep, dark water. What can be in there? And even though there aren't literal monsters in the ocean, the idea of falling into the ocean where there can be anything below me and that I'm just helpless, it's an absolutely just terrifying fear. These people that live on these islands, they're tiny, tiny islands. They're isolated from the world, from most of the people in the world. They're not connected to others, but I'd say that they're not truly free. And if they want to leave their island, if they want to see the world, but they can't because of this danger, they're not free. For so many people in this world, becoming a Marine, becoming a pirate is such an enticing idea because it gives you the purpose to go out to sea, and it gives you oftentimes the capability. If you're a pirate, you get chosen by a captain to join their crew. And that offers some level of protection against the sea monsters depending on who your captain is. And it basically appears that if you could pass maybe just basic fitness tests, you can join the Navy. And you might have to be complicit in some war crimes eventually, but you probably don't really know that jumping in if you're on just some random island and maybe there's only one Den Den Mushi on the entire island. That's something that we know about the world now, is that these really tiny islands, maybe the entire island just has one Den Den Mushi that maybe only certain people on the island even have access to. So for many people in the world of One Piece, the ocean and what lives in the ocean or what's out on the ocean is a massive, horrifying barrier to overcome if they want to see the entire world for themselves. In certain places, such as the Grand Line or the Calm Belt, the ocean is especially treacherous and dangerous and horrifying. What direction you're going, who's going to attack you, what's going to be at your next destination are all completely unknown variables that have to be bravely confronted. And if you're not that level of brave, then you have to be a certain level of crazy to join a pirate that doesn't already have a massive name for themselves and can basically guarantee you safety and freedom across the world. You just join some random dude, you're probably toast. In the world of One Piece, there's something called the Red Line, which is basically like the equator on Earth, but unlike our equator, the Red Line is a just massive mountain, and this Red Line is the main feature that physically divides the world into what I would say 6 chunks. These 6 chunks are extremely difficult to move between each other. These are the Grand Line Paradise section, the Grand Line New World, the East, South, North, and West Blue, and the Calm Belt. Moving between these areas is next to impossible because of the horrifying, terrifying potential of a immediate and violent death. So there's a very stressful element of isolation basically everywhere in the world of One Piece that affects the vast majority of the population. And maybe because most of them have never been out to the world, they don't really know exactly what they're missing, but it certainly keeps them at the very minimum ignorant to a lot of the world's affairs. They rely on reading about things in the world or listening to things about the world through a Den Den Mushi, but when you think about it, Den Den Mushi is a pretty niche technology. Not everybody has access to this stuff, obviously. And for reading it, it's not like they're doing deliveries from one kingdom to the other and they're delivering a pylon of books. Generally, at best, they're getting a World Economic Times newspaper from a bird. I don't know. I'm not sure exactly that the birds go literally everywhere in the world all the time and have enough paper for everybody. It's terrifying to imagine this level of isolation in our real world. We live in a world where I can just make these YouTube videos for fun and post them online, and random people that like the same shit I like, they hop on and they watch it and they like it and they comment on it, and then I comment back. Comment on the video, please, and like it. Thank you. In terms of communication with other people, this technology is basically like pre-industrial times technology in terms of communication over a large portion of the world. In One Piece, we also see this very powerful and poignant theme of poverty. And ultimately, what the poverty in this world causes is for people to not have their basic needs met. If they don't have proper access to shelter, safety in mind and body, food and clean water, then those people can never reach self-actualization. They can never attain their dream. They can never be free. And we see just a staggering amount of poverty, war, hunger in the world of One Piece. And a lot of that comes down to the level of isolation, because there's not like a great supply chain management system in the world. The supply chain management in the world of One Piece really just is like a giant wagon of the best food and money in the world, and it just hops on an elevator and takes a one-way ticket straight to the Celestial Dragons. They just take. They are the owners of this world, the ones that are stopping people from being free, whether they know it or not. And Celestial Dragons and the world government created the model that we see early in Arlong Park that is probably the second moment in One Piece that really dropped my jaw with how harrowing and painful it could be. And that's when Arlong takes over Kokoashi Village and murders Nami's mom and enslaves Nami, basically because Bellemere couldn't pay an enormous tax that Arlong modeled after the Celestial Dragons tax on the world. And in this world, in a lot of these smaller islands, communities need to be very self-sufficient. They don't have the resources, they don't have the surplus value of their work to just give it to somebody else. And so when Arlong comes to take what they have, what they barely scrape together, it kills them. And that's horrifying. When we start the Alabasta saga, we learn about a merging civil war in the Alabasta kingdom. And we start to get the idea that these kingdoms, that these countries, they're not as secure, they're not as safe as they try to appear to be. That there's a deep isolation and inequality in the world, causing things to unravel, for things to lead to violence. And as you can see with the isolation and the inequality, there's a lot of uncertainty in the world of One Piece. And this uncertainty makes people act in irrational ways. People who are good, people who love other people, in these situations with these stressors bending them to break, they could become violent. They could become radicalized because they want their needs met. They want their dreams to be attainable. But when you don't have basic access to water, such as in the Alabasta Kingdom, people start to get very desperate. I just want you to think about something for me real quick. Just imagine that the years 1500 to 1600 in the world are completely erased from history. You cannot find a single thing about that window of time. That would be pretty fucking scary. And One Piece has that, to the point that people know that even talking about this 100-year gap in time can lead to them mysteriously disappearing and implying that they are killed by the government. And the people that do actually look into the Void Century, they are dealt with mercilessly. And then One Piece does some of these things so interestingly. In the Drum Island arc, which was like an early favorite of mine, I really love Chopper's backstory. We learn or get the idea of the philosophy that you can't truly die unless you're forgotten. And this idea of not dying unless you're forgotten sounds really nice until we get to the kingdom of Dressrosa, which so many people of Dressrosa have been turned into toys. And part of this power that has turned them into toys makes everybody they've ever known forget that they ever existed. Which means, in terms of what we learned, they're dead. And not like dead like their heart stopped beating, dead like they're nothing, that they're nothing but a toy. But I would feel so defeated if I was turned into a toy and all of a sudden my son, my daughter, my wife, they don't even know I fucking exist. Like, how are they going to help me? That is like a whole nother level of isolation that just totally twists my stomach, makes me feel a little bit sick. If you do something the government doesn't like and they catch you, they probably won't execute you. They'll probably toss your ass in jail. And this prison is known as Impel Down, which is hell underwater. The way that Impel Down functions in terms of geography is baffling to the mind. It is terrifying to think that when you're in this prison, you're actually trapped underwater, where if you're a devil fruit user, you basically just immediately drown. And if you're not a devil fruit user, or if you are, you just get eaten by sea kings that are just chilling outside, because this is in the calm belt where sea monsters just have nests. And Impel Down feels just designed and created with the single purpose of just ripping the hope and power from these people, to just break them. And you see a lot of broken people in Impel Down. And in Ennie's Lobby and Water 7, we learn about this really twisted justice. The world, the government, they condemn you to death for just possibly having even the faintest possible idea of doing something in the future that they really will not like, aka like ancient weapons or finding the One Piece or any of that type of shit. If there's just even the slightest possibility that you'll be involved with any part of that, they'd rather just wipe you right off their ass and flush you down the toilet. And so this twisted justice is not something that serves the people of the world. It's something that serves the people that are in power in the world, and only the people that have power in the world. And that's kind of, when you think about it, how the real world kind of works, and that's horrifying on a whole nother level. In the Paramount War, we get this idea of inherited guilt. All Ace has ever done is be born. In terms of the world government's eyes, the fact that he was born, the fact that he was conceived, that is a crime befitting death on itself. In the real world, you don't even inherit your parent's financial debt after they die. But in the world of One Piece, if your parent did a crime, whether it was a crime that was actually like amoral or unethical, the crimes that are punishable by death are things like searching into the Void Century, leaving their island of isolation to seek out their dreams. If you're doing that type of shit, even your son, even your daughter, even your wife, even your mother, they are now guilty as well. And I don't think this really falls in line with like friend. Your friend isn't guilty in One Piece, which means that the people who want this form of justice, this person, they think all somebody is what's in their blood, what's in their DNA, what's in their bloodline elements is the term that you see in the manga and stuff nowadays. And then we have Fishman Island, which really goes into the segregation and slavery of people, mostly fishermen in the world of One Piece. Chattel slavery, segregation, those are some of the biggest sins that human civilization has ever made. Oda decided to put those in his story as well, to connect that world with our real world, that history with our history. The purpose of his story to maybe the purpose of our story. What makes him want to sit up and tell a story? And I don't think he would give a straight answer. Fishmen were a class of citizens that as a race were branded as like A-OK for slavery. Eventually, slavery was officially outlawed, but not really enforced, and especially celestial dragons are plenty interested in having as many slaves as they just feel like. And when somebody becomes a slave of the celestial dragons, they're branded. They're marked as property. And being property, like that sense of isolation, that sense of hopelessness, that sense of being forgotten, those meters are just dialed up to the max. After Fishman Island, we go to Punk Hazard and we get what I would call a slightly lighter, less dark element, which would be child science medical experimentation. Crazy to say that's less dark, but kind of true. And the implications of this are wild. Obviously, experimenting on kids and giving them addictive drugs and stuff, it's insanely evil. But the purpose for these experimentations are for creating weapons. It's for creating people that are transhuman. And ultimately, these experimentations' purpose is just to further divide people, to further isolate people, to further deepen the sense of isolation, hopelessness, terror. I still remember my reaction to the smile fruits in Wano. The horrifying lie of these fruits is that they make people laugh, appear happy, appear joyful, when really they're experiencing anguish, isolation for not being able to connect the same way. They are anything but feeling joy. The smile fruit strips them of their autonomy. It strips them of their power. That revelation why everybody in Ibizu town is smiling, these like dumb, stupid smiles all the time. That realization, it just knifed me straight in the heart, honestly. And this entire element made Yasui's death just feel so devastating. And I really love at the end of Wano, during the celebration, when Otoko's sending her balloon up into the sky, making her wish or whatever, she crosses out and says, "Thank you, Daddy," instead of "I miss you," which was so beautiful. And in her thoughts, we see that he actually chose to eat a smile fruit because Otoko chose to eat a smile fruit because she was just so unimaginably hungry that even knowing what it does to you, even knowing that she shouldn't eat it, she eats it anyways and becomes a stuck in the smile fruit face. In the face of that, he reclaims his own autonomy from Kaido, from Orochi, from Doflamingo. He chooses to eat the fruit. He chooses to laugh and smile regardless of how he feels so that he can connect with Otoko so that she doesn't feel that same isolation that devastated my mind when I first met the citizens of Ibizu. Like the video and subscribe to the channel. If you enjoyed Dark Souls, on a second channel I do with my wife, we're live streaming her first playthrough of Dark Souls, and she's extremely good, obviously. No, she's bad, but she's learning, and it's fun watching somebody play maybe my favorite video game of all time, and it's kind of just more of a chill spot. So if you head over there and subscribe, you'll see when we schedule the streams. Quick manga spoilers, because I want to talk about something in the Egghead Island arc. So 3, 2, 1. And of course, in the Egghead Island arc, we learn a lot more about Emu and the Five Elders especially, and we get this kind of element of cosmic horror. Now, I understand that these are depictions of mostly yokai in Japanese and Chinese mythology. The Five Elders' true forms felt like kind of cosmic-y horror-y, which kind of fits the theme because they are the 5 elder planets, so the 5 elder stars. And could you imagine being Vegapunk? Can you imagine being the Marines? Can you imagine being the Straw Hats and like staring at literal monsters? Not devil fruit users, just fucking demons, monsters, things that your mind didn't even conceive of existing. And here they are in front of you, wanting to take your life. Goddamn, the world of One Piece is terrifying, and goddamn, I love it because I love horrifying shit. I'll see you next time. Bye-bye. Would you trade your real human body for a body like hers?
No.
Look how good her nails look, though, dude. I want to go to...
It's crazy.
It's very hot and humid down in the swamp, so you don't want to be wearing no clothes.